So why then is this council not only adopting them, but pushing for the government to do even more damage? The biggest threat to our survival isn't the weather, as history has already shown. It's people blindly following orders without question or thought.
Have you studied the full data that IPCC based its reports on? Is anyone here or in the other 300 councils qualified to analyse that data and declare a climate emergency?
Right, so today Lance and I will be speaking to two very persistent ladies from Colchester. And I use the word persistent. You're going to see, hopefully, why I've used the word persistent, within the next hour. How are you doing anyway?
What are you going to get us to do?
Well, because you've been very persistent, whether you know it or not. That's just the kind of thing that we talk about Peacekeepers. It's about being persistent. Everything is about being persistent. So I just want to ask you one question to kick this off. What was your motivation when you first, decided that you was going to go to the council and speak up? Because we know that there's not a lot of people in this country that do this kind of thing for whatever reasons. So what was the motivation and what was the initial goal? What did you set out to try and do?
Well, initially, we just went along to listen because someone had put in one of the Telegram groups that they were going to possibly talk about 15-minute cities because some of the things they were proposing looked a bit iffy, like shutting off lots of streets and pedestrianising Colchester. And also they hadn't long made Colchester a city, which that in itself is a little bit suspicious because you've been to Colchester, it's not a city. So that sort of got us going along just to see what it was they were up to. I had no intention of speaking whatsoever, but I was half an hour late for that first meeting and it was absolute bedlam when I arrived because everyone was trying to speak at once. And then the council were at the point where they said, look, okay, two of you can come and speak. And I'd literally just taken my coat off and got my backside on the chair. And then someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, would you do it, please, Rachel? And that's how I ended up doing it. And of course, I wasn't prepared, made it a complete hash of it because I'd missed the half an hour before I'd arrived. So I had no clue what was going on. But then once I tried to bluff my way through it, someone had given me some questions. When I sat down, they started talking about all the EVs they were going to be putting into Colchester with e-cargo bikes and all that kind of stuff. And anyone who's been on, especially the alternative social medias, you've seen all those EV fires. So that actually is what motivated me personally to go back and say, look, these things just aren't safe. What are you doing? So although I went along initially just out of curiosity, it ended up being a crusade because once I'd properly researched EVs and had a lot more to say about them than I had initially, it was sort of, we got to stop them doing this because not only is it not good for the environment, but people are going to get hurt. And then it has just sort of snowballed from there. How about you?
I wasn't at the first meeting, so I didn't hear Rachel come up with an improvised speech that first time. But I went to the second meeting where she'd prepared a speech and Cheryl spoke about EV fires. And one of the speakers that night had requested them listen to information because there might be new information coming in that might change your perspective. And we could see the cognitive dissonance on the faces of the climate change manager. And that's when I thought, wow, we need to go and speak to these people discussing about, mind control, perception, other people's perspective, etc. So that's what triggered me.
Did you know each other before?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
we'd met in a stand in the park, but up until the recent few years, we didn't know each other.
Right. Okay. A friendship has formed, no doubt.
Sure has.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We were certainly friends before we started doing the council stuff. So
yeah,
it just, it was when Karina came on board, it was like, oh, good.
Brilliant. So the motivation, we all know what a motivation is at the end of the day. But what did you think that you was going to try and achieve early days? Because it's changed a lot, hasn't it, along the way, quite a bit. So what's changed in terms of the original goal and maybe what the goal might be now?
Well, you start with that one. I need to think on that one because I've had so many sort of changes of how I've gone along.
Well, like I say, I didn't speak at the first meeting. So when I saw the video edit that Rachel had done, looked amazing, looked good. And my thoughts were, as well as trying to change minds in the council, trying to get some open minds to listen to an alternative view, my idea was making sure that the masses found out. So having some video footage to put out that people could share that were based on, you know, the facts on climate change and EVs and the green deception. So that was that's good.
I like it. I like it. The green
Yeah,
deception.
for me, it's I don't have, or I try not to. I did last week, which is why I was so upset when they didn't answer our questions. But I try not to have a specific outcome in mind other than just to educate and also hold them accountable. As you know, last week when there wasn't time to answer our questions, I was very frustrated because it felt like it had been a complete waste of time. But once I kind of got over that, it's no, we did educate and we have held them accountable, even though they didn't get to answer our questions. So for me, that's important. And wherever that takes us, anything else is the icing on the cake. I think if you set out to do this type of thing with a very linear, I want to get from A to B, you're going to be very frustrated. I feel the ripple effect of this, actually, as Karina sort of mentioned about the video, they're doing more than probably what we can do in that council. So it's not just educating the councillors, it's everybody. And certainly the contact we've had with both emails from clients of mine and comments, a lot of people are shocked. And I was shocked. The more I researched it, the worse it got. No sooner had I learned about the batteries and was, you know, I've got solar. That's one of the things that has particularly upset me with this. No sooner had I got over the shock of the battery than someone put in the comments, oh, you do realise the panels themselves are horrific. And it's like, no, not the panels as well. And you start researching that. And the more you dig in, the more disgusting it gets. And it's like, you know, we've had some big lies told, but this just gets more and more insidious because so many people now are really wanting to do what's right for the environment. Everybody's educated now and people are really trying, and it plays on people's goodness that they want to do the right thing. And it couldn't be worse. I mean, I know they lie about absolutely everything, but this really winds me up more than anything else that is done.
Yeah,
if that answers your question. I probably
no, absolutely. Lance, do you want to take over quickly, because I just got a text message, sorry.
I thought what was quite interesting actually was a word that Rachel used. You used the word crusade, and I'm going to presume that's very much how it feels, and probably not what you originally anticipated. And it would be nice. It would be nice to understand how. I mean, Brian talked about the evolution, and I agree. I think when you start these things, you have no idea really where it's going to take you, and so and to be fair, where it takes you is a good thing. You know, it's, you know, simply because you're allowing a sort of process of discovery. It would be nice if the council would allow a process of discovery to go on, but what would be nice, I think, to understand. So I mean, so we got in touch. So you came via, I can't remember exactly how it happened. So how did we all come together? That's the question, and why and where have we taken you? There's a question.
You can answer if you do, but
no, I've got a mind blank now. Yeah, the first time when I watched Rachel and Cheryl talking, and obviously felt that I wanted to get involved, my idea was just getting it out to the public. What I think from my first speech I did, where I came back to when Rachel had done her speech, Cheryl had done her speech, the fact that we hadn't had replies from the panel, the previous one or the new one, none of our questions being answered. So I was going there the first time to sort of tell them off for not communicating, not doing what they're supposed to do. And in my extra minute, I basically just started a rant of, you know, we're watching what's going on, we're not happy about it, you know, and we're not going to stop, we're going to have our voices heard. So I think it was Dace who sort of had contact with Terry from that. You know, there's a couple of righteous girls who won't sit down and shut up, let's get them involved, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, from my point of view, I felt ineffective ineffectual that first meeting, well, first and second meeting, and I wanted to do something that would make them sit up and think. So my thing was, right, let's serve them a notice of liability. We'll give them one more chance, then we'll go in. So when Terry contacted me, I think Dace had told me that he'd got some legal background. So I was like, right, here's what do we want to do? Do you know anyone that can help us with this? And that's how he said, yeah, I know just the people, but I don't think you want to be serving a notice. And I'm going, yes, I do. I really, really do. And then we met you two and you were going, no, you don't. So from that perspective, you give a lot more power to what we're saying in a way that comes at it from, I know you don't like the term legal, but a lawful perspective, that they do have to take note. They may not necessarily want to listen to the content, but the buttons that you're able to press just add an extra layer to ours, and it makes it a bit more armored than if we were just going in by ourselves saying, you must do the right thing, you know, which was kind of the best I had in my artillery, other than going in with a notice of liability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like you know, when you first mentioned, you know, we want to notice them, and I think I said, well, what are you going to do next then? You know, and it's like, well,
worry them a lot.
Well, I don't know, because that's, you know, how we think. We think that, you know, if we conjure up a quick notice, you know, firmly written, you know, these people are going to all of a sudden, you know, do their jobs properly. And that's the illusion, isn't it? You're under this illusion that they're there for you and they're going to do, you know, what you think is right. And then you're faced with all this reality of, oh, bloody hell, they're not listening. They're not really listening to us, and they're not taking anything on board. And you think to yourself, what is this disconnect? Where, you know, and there's this big void between us all of a sudden, you know, which what we're trying to do is obviously, you know, put the bridge out and, you know, communicate with these people, which is a bit of a learning curve in itself, isn't it? But
I thought it would be a one and done. We go in once, give them the information, they say, oh dear, that's dreadful, we'll stop doing it, and then off we go, bye. And then of course that's so naive. It's just not the case. Not even vaguely realistic.
Not at all. And I mean, we've you know, previous to meeting you guys, you know, we've had experience with people up and down the court, up and down the country in the courts, with obviously the council tax challenge that we started last April last year. Sorry. And we know what their fears look like at the end of the day, but we are learning, and it's a process of learning the game, learning people, and when we're coming from this completely new perspective, a new reality, and a new truth, you know, we're quite a distance away from these people, because they haven't quite got to that level of understanding. However, I say that, I mean, you've had a conversation with one councillor for a period of, you know, what was it, 2 or 3 hours?
3 hours.
It was 3 hours. And just give us a quick overview. You don't have to go into great detail, just a quick overview what that kind of looked like, that conversation, if you can.
Yeah, it was very enlightening. That one, she was really into serving the public very genuinely.
Yeah.
And the fact, I mean, who gives up 3 hours of their time? I mean, who does that these days?
No one.
So, yeah, precisely. So,
I beg to differ.
Well, yeah, okay, Lance does, but
me too.
All right, but in day-to-day stuff.
We'll talk about
how
that
many
later.
Yeah, give up that amount of time. So I was very impressed by that. But her main focus was on the smaller issues, like the bin run and just tiny stuff. And every time I tried to say, yeah, but what about the bigger picture? Can't you see what's coming? It was like, oh, well, we'll deal with if anything happens, you know, like digital IDs and all that kind of stuff. We just deal with that at the time. So there was I couldn't get through in the entire meeting that there's some big stuff going down, that you need to be aware of the bigger picture, so that when they start doing things that look like a 15-minute city, you're aware ahead of time. But that I could not get through. That was a complete no. But it was interesting. Just her perspective was interesting. You know, she sort of said, as a Conservative, she finds it easier dealing with Labour than she does the Lib Dems, because Labour have a doctrine that's very clear. She knows exactly how they're going to react to everything, whereas the Lib Dems can go here, there, and everywhere. And she said the Lib Dems and the Labour, what they want to do is more rules, more control. Whereas she said Conservatives would rather inform you of, here's what you're doing that isn't ideal for the planet, and then leaving it to you to make your own decisions. So she said that's how we come to it. And I said, look, everyone hates the Conservatives at the moment. Why don't you run as an independent? And she was like, well, no, we couldn't afford to, because, you know, they spend like £5,000 on leaflets and things. They have teams of people helping them for 6 weeks. And also you don't get anywhere in the council. It's so sewn up that you've got to be with one of the main parties if you really want to get anywhere. So it was interesting from that point of view, but, you know, she was lovely and very, very helpful. So, and I very much appreciate her spending that amount of time talking to me.
Do you think anything that you said, she went away and had a look and found, you know, discovered some things that you might have, you know, some seeds that you planted? Do you think she discovered a few things on her little research mission? Because she must have gone and had a look.
She said the speech really moved her. She said what you said affected her, so she went off and she researched the EVs. She said, in, you'll see on that video at the end, she says, you know, I've looked into all of these aspects of it. And as a result of that speech, she asked them to make sure that the cabinet, when they're making decisions, because the Conservatives were in power for 1 year, so she's had that experience of being a portfolio holder and having to sign checks for like 600,000 the very first day she's in office.
Right. Okay.
And she said the officers try and tell you have to do this. And she said, no, that's not how I operate. You don't tell me what I have to do. I will make that decision. But she said there's a lot of pressure from the officers to tell you how you should do something. So I would imagine any councillors that are of a weaker personality probably get steered very easily, was my takeaway from that. But yeah, you know, she was very helpful with that information on how the council is working. So she asked for them to have the befores and afters, or it's called the what's it? I wrote it down earlier. It's the whole history of the product from when it's being built to the recycling.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, on Wednesday night, that councillor that turned around and said after she'd had her bit that, oh, we told you in that council meeting we'd do that. He didn't. What he turned around and said is, that's an awful lot of work. That's more work than we can do. And she then had to stand up again and say, no, just because something's a lot of work doesn't mean to say you don't do it.
Exactly.
So he was very anti her suggestion. So for him in that meeting to turn around and say, oh, you know, we're going to do it anyway, like, why are you making a thing of it? So yes, it has had an impact from there. And also some of the other councillors have also researched it, which is good. And it's giving them the confidence to speak up.
That's right.
Now, and I think it was very helpful we were there on Wednesday for that full council meeting, because they can now take a more righteous path than them saying no. I think it was easier for them to say no with us there, because we'd given the full history, because I doubt anyone else had done the level of research that councillor had done. So by us coming in and telling the entire council this stuff is really, really bad, you know, it made it easier for them to say no, and they looked that they were taking the moral high ground, whereas the people that voted yes obviously were following party orders.
You've made some really, really great points. I mean, you know, initially you made a speech, you went to the council, you put your information across. It clearly had an impact on this particular councillor.
That was the second speech.
The second speech. Sorry,
So as you say, the persistence is what has done this.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to illustrate is that what you said changed a mind.
Yes.
Okay. And this is what the point I'm trying to get across to people is, that if you do nothing, nothing will happen. Right? It's really, really basic. If you do something, something will probably happen. Right. And then in between that, it's how you present, what you present, and what questions you ask. And I think you're right. I think it's the support that you guys have given those councillors is brilliant. It's absolutely superb. What do you think, Lance?
Yeah,
because
Well, the question that I pointedly asked when we left that meeting on the stairs, as one of the councillors came rushing out to kind of grab hold of us, was even though, you know, technically you would look at what happened as a loss. We got 17 out of the 51 votes basically saying no to the reaffirmation of the climate change emergency. Whereas I saw that as a huge victory, and in order to demonstrate that, and that being a consequence of the work that that you've done over the last sort of however many months, was simply, you know, how many of those no's would you have got a year back? And he was pretty clear. He kind of went, 0. So in my mind, and I think you made some really important points. One which I was disgusted by again on Wednesday, was the idea that because something's a problem, we're not going to do it. We're just going to act anyway. I mean, that's just insane. So getting the information is a bit too much work. So we're just going to crack on. I mean, that's just lunacy. The whole point is you are meant to make a decision based upon the best available information. Yeah. And what you're denying yourself is the opportunity to get hold of that. And in other words, what's really happening there is they just want to do what they've been told as quickly as possible with as least pain as possible, as opposed to us, what I say, us, the royal we, is move them into a different position, i.e. move them into a proper judgment call, which they don't want to go to, because then they know they're going to have to say no. And the second part of what, and sorry, I don't mean it's interviewing you guys, not the other way around. The other part that I thought was really interesting in what you just said then was the political party aspect. I mean, there are so many elements of that is just fundamentally wrong. From you have to be in a party because you need the machine behind you. I mean, that just tells me the whole thing's wrong. And then the really important part, effectively the voting blocks, and that was palpable in the chamber on Wednesday. You could see that was just regimented voting. So up went all the yeses, and and then the no's from whatever clique, and particular, we can't say yes to whatever they're saying, whether we're speaking sense or not. And sorry, I'm just going to make this point. I'll try to quickly. You and I spoke afterwards, and and there was an element of those 17 votes saying no. We can't fully speak to what motivated them to say no individually. The point is they said no, which is the important point. I also know that of the 34, say, other votes, there will be a large number of them that probably wanted to say no as well. And that then goes on to the next part, which is the attritional aspect. Because I tell you what, actually, let's ask another question rather than me talk. What do you think? I know it's unusual. What would you say is from here going forward? And feel free to express all of these, because if we can't understand what our problems are, then we can't try to elevate them and sort them out. So how do you see, pushing aside all the great stuff, what's the biggest problems here? What do you see going forward as the things that are going to get in your way?
Good question. It depends what the goal is. I mean, if we're trying to achieve a behaviour change within them, they're going to want to not do that. So that's going to be the biggest thing. They're going to have a lot of pressure from the people around them, and the ones that are more likely to be favourable to leaning towards us are probably going to be the gentler, more thoughtful ones. And there's a lot of very brash, here's how we're going to do it, we've got to save the environment this way, brainwashed, loud ones within those parties. Both sides have that. Mm-hmm. So I think getting them to find courage is going to be difficult. I'm going to start playing with the speeches, and I always try and put a little bit of an element in there of highlighting, really shining the spotlight on what they're doing. But I think we also need to try and lend them a bit of courage in some of the work we're doing. So that's going to be the hardest thing for linear results. The other results, well, it just seems to be happening and unfolding in its own way. So I'm not too, but I don't see it as a problem, whatever happens. Getting your meeting might be tricky. I know you're wanting that public meeting, and I hope we get it. I think that would be quite substantial if we can get them to say that yes to that. So that's what I think is going to be they're stuck in a system, even if, and I think a lot of them are very decent people, but there's going to be a lot of peer pressure. So it's getting through that. I think it's going to be tough. What do you reckon?
Not much to add on that. I think Brian was right, though. Ultimately, if they're supposed to be representing the public and the public have been silent for decades, then quiet voices working on morality aren't going to have any sway at all. What's going to work is people in the council that have a quiet voice inside as having the power of the people, which gives them a righteous justification for, you know, representing, because they might not feel on a personal level they can shout loud enough for what they're thinking. But if there's a crowd of 50 or 100 or 300 people outside saying we want this, then they are hopefully going to get some courage from that.
If we don't support them, they won't support us. I think it's that simple. And I think it's time to stop being lazy and, you know, approaching these people. But it needs to be planned and it needs to be done in a particular way. There's no good going in there with anger. Okay. You need to keep the rational part of the mind engaged, right? You get back what you give out normally. And it is. And I think there are, wasn't 34, it was 24. It was 17 votes against the new climate change motion, whatever that was. And it was 24 for, wasn't it? And there was a few councillors that couldn't make it out of the 51. So I think that's a huge crack, and it's about creating these little cracks along the way, and those cracks become wider cracks. But this is huge. This is totally what else has happened like this in any other council in this particular way, you know, in the country? It hasn't. So, you know, and I always say, you probably heard me say this, they always give us opportunities. They always give it to us, and they don't even realize what they're handing us most of the time, right? But you've got to keep the watchful eye out for the opportunities. That's the key, and that's the trick at the end of the day. When you know, the chap came running out when we, you know, after the climate change, after the vote, and he got us on the stairs, you know, he came out to support us, to tell us he was showing his support, and he actually said, don't stop, carry on, right? For whatever his reasons are, right? Because we still, as Lance pointed out, we don't know how, we can't measure why they said no to this motion. What matters is they said no. That's the starting block. So we can only build on.
Also, I thought it was interesting when he came out, he apologised. He recognised that we were after a no for the motion. Yeah.
I didn't hear that part. Right.
No, he apologised because he didn't mention what we'd said. He was supporting the 20-mile-an-hour zones where there's children. So he apologised for not having our back. Yeah, not having the time available to give us support like some of the other councillors did. So that was what that was about.
Right. Okay.
I got confused.
Never mind. Go on, Lance. You was going to say something. I saw it.
When I lost my thread. It was along the lines of no. Find another question while you're there, and it'll come back to me. I'm going to circle on it.
Well, I think when we're getting these kind of even small interactions with these people, I mean, 3 hours is not a small interaction by any means. That's a large, long interaction. How many other councillors would sit with you for that period of time? I don't know. I'm not going to rule it out, though, that there are councillors and, you know, human beings that are prepared to take that time and discuss or listen, or at least have a conversation. But these interactions, they all are adding up you know, the way that in which we need to move forward with these people, because it's always kind of been them and us. It's them at the council and us out on the street. What we got to do is bring the street into the council. But with our meeting, what we're going to do is we're going to bring the council out into the street. That's the whole idea of that one. I'm going to use the word persistent, okay, because the word persistent is key. I'm not going to stop whatever I do in terms of trying to get a meeting. That meeting's going to happen whether they like it or not. I'm going to make it happen. That's the way I see it. Lance, go on.
Yeah, funnily enough, it came back to me. It took a while. Sorry.
There you go.
Funnily enough, it was along exactly the same point. It was. They may not be getting there yet, but Darius, and again, that's why it occurred to me. What this was expressing was that persistence. You know, don't keep giving up. The thing that I don't think is perhaps as clearly in the mind of all of the councillors quite yet is that we aren't giving up, and you aren't giving up. I know how much time it takes, because I've seen the amount of work that goes into it. What
realization is coming slowly. I think the realization is coming slowly that we're not going away.
And I think that's something that perhaps is something that maybe actually needs to. And I think you expressed it on Wednesday. I think you did say it. And I think that bears quite a lot of repetition going forward. I don't know what you think about that, but again, it's attrition on all sides. So I know how attritional this is for you two. You've expressed that really clearly. You know, it's hard work. You don't feel sometimes that you're getting anywhere, etc., etc. But it's also attritional on the other side, because they don't want us there. They certainly don't want you guys there. I imagine a small cheer goes up every time nobody turns up.
You might be right.
But also we even the numbers out, because just over a third of that council voted no. But when we were all in there, with including the people that had come to support us, it was 50-50. And they're not used to that level of support. They're always the underdogs, even though they won the most votes. That must just be galling to have got more votes, 19 seats to 16, yet they're not in any power at all. And then suddenly the public come in, and suddenly it's like, oh, we've got backup.
Yeah, no, you just made a really I'll try. I was going to say a really beautiful point, actually, because what that did, if you think about what that just did, when those little cheers went up and those claps went up, and some of the speeches were superb by the councillors as well, and there was a lot there. There was a lot of good that was said. Is to all of those who said yes to it, they placed themselves in the minority. Frankly, that's embarrassing, because it's the public just calling them out there and then, just saying, what are you doing? You know, over and above all of the evidence that you've presented, all of the rationality you've presented, they're still persisting in this wrong place. But
did you notice how the language changed with that councillor? He said, we never said this was good for the environment. It's better than what we're doing now because of the carbon aspect. And it's like, you have said this is good for the environment. You are backpedaling, because it clearly isn't. Consistent and persistent.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Because so basically what you guys are saying is, we keep turning up, we keep saying the same thing, and we're talking from a place of truth, evidentially so. Eventually, all that glass that you're standing on is going to crack, and I think that's what, you know, it's slowly revealing itself, because, you know, where they nuance the language away, or, you know, they're shifting in their seats. I mean, some of the looks, I don't know about you, but some of the looks I was getting from some of the councillors, I mean, talk about daggers. It's just, get out of our space, leave us alone, run away, please.
It's quite late at night, Lance.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I just think we need to elevate. And again, I know, you know, Brian is elevate the achievement that you guys have made, and to sort of say, for the more that people get on board, the more successes I think that you can demonstrate by virtue of what you're doing and how you're going about it, the more you will grow that collective of people who say, yeah, we can make a difference. It's bloody hard work, but I think it's always the first victories that are the hardest ones. I mean, the problem with those, and again, we're back to the word attrition, is once you make your first steps forward, is you then got to go twice as hard. It's, you know, it's like anything, you know, you get to a certain place and you think, brilliant, well done. Oh God, now I've got to get going again. And I've got to get going again. But hopefully, and this was the problem, and I was waiting for it to come up. But the real big problem here is, where are the other people?
We've got extras volunteering now. People do want to get involved.
There you go.
Superb, thank you. Has that been something you've seen in the last week or so, or just slowly?
Well, I've been sort of mentioning it that we need extra people, and you know, Victoria coming along to see it, and then afterwards she said, yes, I want to do it. I've emailed back and forth with her, and she's keen to do it. Because she said, like, you know, seeing you guys do that, I want to be involved. Right. So we just need a few more of those. Cheryl's up for doing some more, so you know, we can rotate and some of us can sit on the bench, but I've still got a lot to say yet, so I'm not going to retire just yet.
I'm waking up most mornings at 6 o'clock with another sentence that I've got to write down because it's got to fit into a speech somewhere.
There's the thing, Lance. 6 o'clock. Eh?
Yeah,
it's late, isn't it, Lance?
That is late. I think between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. I wrote my latest article this morning. So having finished one at 10 o'clock last night. So yeah, and this speaks to, you know, the amount of effort that, you know, we know that goes into these things. You know, it's superb to hear that people are starting to now come to you. You know, part of this, hopefully, if it gets listened, you know, that's, you know, let's have more, please, because like you say, the big thing about that is, if you're not turning up and it's not Karina, or you're sat at the back and somebody else is doing it, then it makes their position ever more untenable. You know, the fact that you know, because now you're not that, you know, that small collective of
protesters, I think they'd labelled us as.
Yeah, I mean,
middle-aged women just having a go. Not important to be heard, all that kind of stuff.
Well, people that have kind of sort of, you know, woken up one morning and gone, do you know what, enough's enough. You know, and are prepared to do something about it, are not defeated by the attritional nature of approaching what is ultimately a machine. So, you know,
back to your first question about what motivated me, I wanted to see how far I could push in terms of, you know, moral, ethical arguments and what I'd get back. I wanted to know if we are living in an illusion of democracy, or when you pull the curtain back, it's just completely authoritative dictatorship. And that's what we've discovered. But we're not happy about that. And now that we got you guys, we can tell them off for it as well.
I think it's always going to be the way. Once you get up and you're persistent and you show people how persistent you are, and you've got really good content, you know, and good speeches and excellent questions to put across, then others will start going, oh, hang on a minute, I might want a piece of this myself, because, you know, they're standing on something that's quite solid, right? And oh, I can actually go and stand on something quite solid as well now, you know. And before long, more and more people will just, and it will spiral. It will start spiraling. We've certainly, you know, discussed, I'm not going to discuss the plan here, but we've certainly got a plan for the next meeting, and possibly the oncoming meetings after that. But as I think, as Lance pointed out, you know, and I'm especially of the same mind, you got to start throwing everything at the situation and don't let go, because as soon as you you know, off with the throttle, it's no good. It's no good.
Oh yeah, the next speech, what I want to start doing is put humour into it, because that is so destructive. Gentle ridicule that they're just going to be not only in the spotlight, but I'm going to make them look so stupid if they carry on believing these lies, that it's just going to be so uncomfortable. And you can do that with humour in a much more effective way than you can by getting angry or anything else. And actually that was one of the councillors' comments, wasn't it? That we're so polite that we don't come at it with anger like everyone else does.
Yes.
And that's all down to David Charalambous. If I hadn't have had that pep talk from him, I would have gone in like angry housewife. So we're forever grateful for his influence as well.
I mean, Lance and I have been having some meetings with David, and he's certainly sharing some real good information with us, which hopefully we're going to continue, having conversations with him. But it's so valuable, isn't it? Not getting angry. It's so it's such a power, and a motivation as well. And people realise, they notice, don't they? And they can't tell you off, can they, for that?
About how polite we've been. I think people are so brought up on like your EastEnders and all that shouty drama that this is such a departure from that. And it's not in our characters anyway.
No.
It takes quite a lot to get across, but although once we do go, but
Karina told off one of the councillors, didn't you, the other week?
Did I? Yeah, you told her, but you did. That she really wanted to after that.
When I said I was going to give her a verbal spanking, she got away with that.
No, there'd be the meeting before we told her.
No, not that one.
Oh, okay. When I said, give me some respect, give us some respect.
That was it. Yeah.
But you know what? When you said that and the way you said it, it was like, yes, get in there.
It was almost a polite, I'm just letting you know where your error is, and I'm not going to take any comeback on that. So that's where your error is. We'll move forward. Thank you.
Totally. And another thing I want to point out, I'm not going to go into the discussion I had with the security up there, but it's kind of, at one point I asked the question of this security individual, who's in charge here? And she said, we are. And I said, no, you're not. You're not in charge of me or anything that I do. This is a public building. And her face dropped and changed instantly. And one of the other security guys, this was to do with the balcony upstairs, obviously, where they closed off the front row, put some A4 sheets down and said, it's for your own safety, i.e., is it likely to collapse? And didn't the chairman make a remark on, hopefully the balcony won't come, collapse with you? Stop it, please. It's to restrict the amount of people.
Dangerous, health and safety wouldn't let you up there at all.
We wouldn't even got through the door, basically.
No.
But the other guy,
they'll do that next time, though, because you've questioned it. I expect it to be closed next time.
Well, there you go. We'll see about that, won't we? But this guy, I think one of the chaps asked this guy a question, and he replied with, it's our job to enforce this. And I turned around and I said, how are you going to enforce that, mate? And he said, well, we can ask. I mean, you just...
Look at the size of you, Brian. I mean,
it's not the point. The point is, and I didn't say it violent, like aggressively. It might.
You wouldn't need
aggressive. To. but the long and short of it is that we have to identify at every turning point what they say and correct even one word. We have to correct them, because when you correct them and you put them in their place, it's like you've told them off. Because
you're showing you're in charge, which we are, or meant to be.
Absolutely. And who are the children? It's not us. It's them. And it's great when they turn around and they have to correct themselves as well, and it's not an ego thing. It's not a big-headed thing. It's just like, well, hang on a minute, mate. How are you going to enforce that exactly? Oh, well, we can ask. So that's a different mindset now. Next time when he sees me, or if I ask a question, the response might be will be totally different. But yeah, sorry. I just wanted to point that out.
I
mean, did you see the way the mayor reacted to what we said? Because it was made some comment about, yes, we do allow freedom of speech in here. He was unsettled by what we said, and he really didn't like when I said, is the anti-slavery policy on your website there just for decoration?
That was one of my favourite lines.
The look on his face was like, because they're not used to being challenged in quite the way we're doing it.
No.
I wish I could have had a rejoinder to when when after I finished speaking, he said, you know, of course we allow freedom of speech in this place, and that's a good thing. I was thinking, oh, how is it that you allow that? I didn't realise it was something to be allowed, but I thought it was strange. He changed. I mean, he suddenly started, you know, then for the next however long he was talking about, oh, I can't do that, it's not in the constitution. It was just stop it. But it is interesting to see a couple of things that I sort of didn't want to butt in. Brian, I think what Rachel and Karina are basically talking about is a train which is coming, and the people have got to start getting on board. Private joke.
You'll see this soon.
And the other thing, just to do with the seating area and the fact that we you know, our decorous behaviour was appreciated. Well, then surely going forward, there's little to no reason, unless, of course, there is a genuine health and safety aspect, which I've requested the evidence for that balcony not to be fully open. But we will see where we will go on that. You know, and that's a question for me to ask of the scrutiny committee, I think, at some point.
I think we also should be asking the 24,
yeah,
what evidence they are relying upon that's made them put their hands up for the climate emergency malarkey. Because this is where we need to go now. We need to screw them down and say, look, what have you relied upon? Show us what you've relied upon to put your hand up and agree.
I did that yesterday in the email, because that councillor said that they're not good for the environment, but they're better. So I've asked him to evidence that claim, and that will be in the next speech, whatever he says, because I know it's going to be on CO2. So I'm going to do here's what you think, and here's what you're doing, and you're justifying doing this because of this. Oh, and by the way, you're very wrong on this. Yeah. So yeah, that is basically the next speech.
Yeah, because they can't just turn around and just say, yes, we agree with it. What information has led you to believe that there's a problem with this? You know, we need to open that right up. But yeah, it's certainly an experience going down to your local council, to say the least. I always enjoyed a visit there. Totally.
It's a night out.
That's because you're not the one that has to speak to them all, Brian. It's much more enjoyable when you're in the
not yet.
When Karina goes.
Oh, Brian's coming.
Not yet. Well, you know, anyway. That's what's coming up next.
We'll look forward to that then.
But yeah, I mean, well, I met Lance down at the council at Malden about, blimey, was that nearly 2 years ago? Year and a half, 2 years ago.
Getting on for 2 years.
Yeah. And Malden Council, blimey, they're like a bunch of real children down there compared to your lot.
They locked you out, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Security turned up once, you know, you can't get in the building. It's all this malarkey. Police turned up. The funny thing was, when in the building, they made us sit out the back with a big screen while they had their meeting in the chamber. And the police got called. I can't remember what the police got called. And one of them was quite small and one of them was quite big. And the one that was quite big went into the chamber, and the other one was across the room with a mask on. And I think he called, I went over and I started speaking to him. That's right. And I turned around to him and I was talking, and he said, "You all right, Brian?" And I went, "Do I know you?" And he said, "Yeah, I used to come to your boxing club." And it was about 4 or 5 months previous. He'd only just joined. So I kind of said to him at the time, you know, you can see this is just, you can surely see this is stupid, you know. And of course he wouldn't react to that. But yeah, it was really stupid down at that Malden place, isn't it, Lance?
It is. Funnily enough, I've not been to that place for quite some time, and that actually is a really, really big point that I'd certainly like to make. Is that for what you two guys have started and hopefully is snowballing from here, is there's an open microphone at every council in the country. And what you guys are doing and achieving is basically showing people everywhere what they need to be doing. And because
they're doing it. We get lots of messages on the YouTube channel. St Albans have started up, and various others, people in Yorkshire. There's at least 4 or 5 people that are now going to their council because of us, or getting groups of them up and down the country. I'm
so glad that we arranged to have this call, because not only have I come away with that and more people coming up and supporting you guys directly, but to know that you're having that effect, that which you could never have guessed.
That's why I created the Dropbox folder, so people had all the speeches, all of the research, and didn't have to do all the legwork.
Don't reinvent the wheel, as it were. Yeah,
precisely. And people are taking those speeches. That they're emailing me saying, "Right, I'm going to my council next week."
Brilliant.
I can't. And that's exactly how it should be. Exactly how it should be. Yeah. But let's be real about this. It's going to take quite a lot of work, because we've got a lot of minds to educate and assist. Because I see all of this as assisting these councillors in the bigger picture. We're trying to help them. They don't know it yet, of course, but we're trying to help them come to a realization, and trying to force information into these people is never going to work. So we have to kind of maybe ask some questions, lightly converse with them, hoping they'll come to a certain conclusion. But that and I would suggest everybody go to reachingpeople.net, to David Charalamus's website and his YouTube channel, and go and learn how to communicate with people, because it's really, really powerful. We're going to close in about 8 minutes, Lance. So you got anything else you want to ask? What about the time and effort involved?
But that was
we've been talking about this week, haven't we?
Yes. So myself and Brian had a conversation about what is a far too sensitive subject, which is silly because it shouldn't be. And then when you did your video, I congratulated you on the video, and I said, well done on putting a donation button to it. And then you basically said what is frankly just simply true for you, which is, I'm spending so much time on this that I'm not spending my time on my own business. Consequently, I'm hurting. Now, amusingly, myself and Brian had that conversation a couple of weeks back. I then went off and wrote the asking for help article on my Substack. Right.
Link in the description.
Thank you. So had to get one in. And weirdly, as you pointed out just before this call, Dave Charalamus had also had the conversation that what we're talking about, I think, is there's a problem. There's a problem with talking about money, and it's insane that we shouldn't be able to talk about it, because I see firsthand the amount of effort that Brian's putting into another project, let alone this one, let alone whatever else he's got going on, and his own personal business. I know that, Rachel, that you're suffering as a consequence, and I'm hoping that that's going to get alleviated finally by people turning up. But the question that I think is of value, the question is about value, I suppose, because if there's value, and this is why I'm hoping that you see some donations through the YouTube video. If people value what you're doing, show it in a monetary way. And the problem that seems to be in the movement is, as soon as you elevate what is a perfectly rational request, given the amount of time that people spend on these things, it suddenly becomes like a dirty word. And then there'll be a whole bunch of people that will go, oh, that's what they're all about. Whereas, nah, that ain't what it's about at all. However, If you don't ask, you don't get. And I know, from my own personal position, that at a certain point in time, and Brian, this is true of you, is that you've got to put food on the table. And so it irks me. I'd like people to, if people think there's value there, then they show it, because what they're doing is they're supporting what they see to be right. And I can't remember exactly how my article puts it. Go and read it. It's on my Substack. But I really think we need to, adult minds. We've got responsibilities. How the hell do people expect us to do what we're trying to do? Because I know if I have to go,
I'm hoping people will recognise that it's not until round 7 that Rachel's saying at the end of the video. And I know with each video, particularly this one with some of the sound issues, that it's 2 or 3 days work. So I do. I also feel that those people who are watching it, those who are really appreciating it, if any of them have got any money, they would be more than happy to try and fund this. They'd rather do that than not have the option, and then us all sort of filter off because we haven't got the money. Not that that would happen, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I've self-funded this for 8 months and it's been my choice. And also I go into it at a level that perhaps other people don't, or maybe it's not necessary, but I don't feel I can be up there asking all those councillors, have you read the IPCC report? And I've not read it myself. And I don't know if you've tried reading it, but it's the kind of document that if you had the choice of shooting yourself in the foot or reading the document, by page 5, you realise shooting yourself in the foot would have been the better choice. But I feel that needs to be done. And then there's all the legislation that you go through. It's not what goes into that speech is tiny. The research that goes into it is enormous, and it just takes so much time. And once you start going down one rabbit hole, you go down another and another. And I'm not the type of person that can give a speech on something I don't understand. So I'm having to educate myself. It's my lack of knowledge. And also I'm a naturally very curious person, and that's what takes the time. And then, of course, you've got to keep an eye on the council. So their meetings can be 2, 3, 4 hours long, and they have tons of them every week. And guess who's sitting through them, keeping an eye on them? That's how I know they'd ordered electric dust carts and all those little tidbits, and just getting the sense of how the council works. All that type of stuff takes a ridiculous amount of time. And it's been... Once I get my teeth into something, I can't let things go. You said about being persistent. I'm a Taurian with a rising sign of Taurus. That's a whole level of stubborn that you will not meet in your lifetime again. So once I get stuck into something, that's it. I keep going and going at it. So I can't let it go. But then I look at what that's done to my business. 8 months of me spending day and night researching, and the speeches. That first speech took me 10 days. I just did not know how to get everything I needed to say into 3 minutes. But, we're getting better at that now. It's getting much quicker, and your help is really valuable, because I'm not second guessing myself on every single sentence. I just pass it to you guys and you go yes or no and then tweak it. So that's been invaluable, what you're giving to us. But yes, this is almost a full-time job, and my business has gone downhill because although it's automated, people sense when your passion is elsewhere. And I always notice this. When I'm not mentally and emotionally in my business, it suffers. And I've been doing garden design for over 30 years, and this is a new challenge, and I'm enjoying not the doing it. I hate the doing it, but I enjoy the research that fires up my brain, and I like the speech writing because that's a real challenge. There's a creative element to that, which I enjoy. The rest of it I don't like. But so if people want to fund that, I do need them to fund it, and people have been very generous. And as I say, it's right at the end of the video. I don't suppose many people are even seeing the can you help? But people are, and I was amazed anyone dipped into their pocket, because there's so many people in the truth movement that are all doing valuable work, and it does take up more time than you could ever imagine. And I funded people for stuff, and I'm glad it's beginning to come in. But I look at it like, okay, universe, I need you to do something. Either magic me some money, or people do need to assist. I'll go with whichever direction. But as you said, there's a very practical thing that you do have bills to pay. So that's why I reluctantly asked. And I was more reluctant because I'm not the only person doing this. There's you and Brian and Karina. Everybody puts a lot of time in. So that was where my reluctance was, more than, oh gosh, I think I'm going to have to actually ask for help now.
I think we can speak for the group when we say, although we're putting time and effort in, certainly from my perspective, Rachel's perfectionism and her, well, I won't have it in the speech unless I've triple checked it myself, is really reassuring for anyone else who's saying something, because you go, oh, well, Rachel's checked it. You know, she'll have a few people that she'll have a few people that says, oh, can you check this for me? Can you check that for me? But ultimately, it's really reassuring. And I know that the artwork is in the creating the videos as well. And Rachel's got a long history and has developed skills just so that she's at that level of perfection when we need it right here, right now, to spread the word. So I am forever grateful.
And I couldn't do this without you guys as well. So that
listen, you know what? It's a combined effort, okay? Because it's about becoming part of a team at the end of the day and part of a community.
It's nice that we're all individuals. No one's kind of joined at the hip. It just works because we've got a common goal and we're adults. And I like that a lot.
Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Brilliant.
I'm really happy that we've done this chat, that we could show people you know, what's going on up at Colchester. We'll probably have another chat again, because I think there's going to be some more interesting stuff to let people understand and appreciate. And I hope people do appreciate the time and effort that you guys are putting into it, because like I said before, you know, there's plenty of people that sit at their keyboards or on their mobile phones and they don't really do anything. But I think there's a lot of people out there that sit on their mobile phones and at their keyboards that want to do something. They just don't know what to do and how to do it. So, you know, it's all one big learning curve, Lance, isn't it? At the end of the day, you know. Right, I'm going to finish it there, guys. Anyone want to say anything else before we end?
Well, I just want to say thank you to you guys, because like Rachel said, it felt as if we were stomping our feet and swinging our handbags around with no real substance behind it. We needed the law on our side and your knowledge, really. And like I was saying about Rachel having got to a place where she's ready, I know you've done 13, 15 years to get to this place as well. So not just in the recent months, but thank you for your time and efforts over the decades, Brian.
Decades. Only 26.
Thanks for putting the studs on our handbags.
Yes, studding our handbags. Thank you for that.
Brilliant. On that note, thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.